On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we desperately try to wrap our heads around Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart. That's right, it's a non-metal month already. Hi, everyone. Welcome to an episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like talking about it, but every once in a while, we like to take a break from all the heavy riffs and the low tunings and the double bass to talk about stuff that's not metal. And September's a whole month where we do that.
It's like a palate cleanser. And there's going to be 5
I'm going to need a fucking palate cleanser.
After this one?
After this one. Holy shit.
Did you know that there are scholars who study just this album?
It doesn't surprise me. There's a lot to study here. I don't know where anyone would begin. I guess you would begin at the beginning.
Sure.
Theoretically. But yeah, Trout Mask Replica is an album made in 1969 by Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. I don't know what you would... This is avant-garde music.
Yes, it's definitely music. I mean, I've heard some avant-garde stuff where I'll go, that might not be music.
Yeah.
That's sound, certainly, but...
Avant-garde sound. That's
yeah.
It's art at that point.
Sure.
You just have to call it, use a blanket term and call it art. This is, it's music.
Yeah.
Most of it. Some of it's conversation or just Beefheart yelling over the phone at Frank Zappa.
And you know, I like that a lot of it was done and they didn't quite edit everything. They maybe should have edited out and left it. And I thought maybe that's you know, like after the song's done, it was pretty good.
Some conversation, just leaving some conversation.
Right.
I mean, I think that's interesting. At the very least to hear a bit of the studio process. But yeah, there's a lot going on here, and none of it makes any sense whatsoever. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. First, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It got kind of wet today. I mean, it was weird. It was like calm, and there was like a bird lights on the windowsill, and then
and rain
and 45-mile-an-hour wind, and then like I mean,
it's been windy as fuck all day.
Yeah, kind of.
It's been windy as fuck all week.
Yeah, early in the day it was fairly calm.
Yeah. I'm kind of bummed because this weekend is probably going to continue to be extremely windy for all of it. And it's like one of the last big weekends that I could probably go to the lake and make some more use of the kayak.
You can do that. I mean, it's going to be 60 for a high on
I don't give a shit about the temperature.
Yeah.
I can throw on a sweatshirt.
Sure. Should be a weird thing to fall in the lake on with.
Yeah. I mean, but still.
Make sure it's Angora.
Yeah. There we go. Like I can bundle up a little bit and go out on the lake. It's the wind that is the most bothersome element.
Yeah, when you're trying to fight a wind with a paddle.
Yeah, plenty of people go kayaking in the fords of Alaska. I think I can manage September in North Dakota.
I don't know, it's kind of windy.
Yeah, as long as it's not windy is the thing.
Yeah, I remember being up there at Lake Schooling there by Metagoshi. And my wife and I had each gotten an individual canoe, and we'd put our children in there so they could paddle with us. Of course, you know, they're children, so they're useless. So, so a wind kicked up, and my wife had to say, "Do not throw that paddle. Do not throw that paddle," because I was backed up against the rocks and couldn't paddle forward both sides. I'm like, "Fuck you, wind! Fuck you!"
This is you were Lieutenant Danning it. You're just yelling at God and nature.
Yeah.
Just up on the mast, just screaming at the sky. Oh boy. But yeah, it's one of the last times that it would make sense to go out. I don't know. I need to get like some waders or something, or at least some tall rubber boots. That way I can not worry. I can bundle up, but also not have to get in and out of the kayak specifically at docks.
Right. Sure, you can go up to a shore and you could just wade, wade up and be that old dude. We got to get you a chair that fits in there. Can you find a chair?
Oh, I have a chair that I'm sure I could shove in the front.
Oh, yeah.
It sits on my deck permanently and should probably be replaced because it's incredibly sun faded and just baked in, baked in dust.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
Probably spider eggs and all kinds of things.
There's a family of bees living in it.
Yeah, there's a family of bees, sir. You got bees in this. I can. As long as the thing is, I have to find a shore that is rocky because there are not very many truly sandy shores on Lake Sakakawea. No. You see a shore that looks sandy, you're like, I'm gonna get out. No,
it's rocky.
No. There's a thin layer of mud, or there's a thin layer of sand, and then it's mud all the way down.
Because, Lake Sakakawea is a fairly new thing. It hasn't had millions of years for waves to beat rocks into sand. It's all artificial.
It's only had about 70 or 60 or 70 years to accomplish
something like that,
there are places where there's genuine sand, and I'm familiar with most of those places.
Yeah. And it's probably like 3.
There's like 3 of them. There's the tip of Mallard Island. Mm-hmm. There is the opposite shore from like the big loop of the Wolf Creek campground. There's a big loop. The opposite shore, there's a little bay that splits the campground into 2 halves. Mm-hmm. On the western shore there of that bay, there's a lot of sand.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it.
There's no connection to Audubon ever, is there?
No.
Would you have to pick up and walk over 83 to get there?
I would have to pick up and walk over Highway 83.
Yeah.
And also climb up, 40 feet of gigantic boulders.
Yeah, slimy, sharp boulders.
Yeah. That with a 50-pound kayak on my shoulder. No thanks. I could just, if I wanted to go to Audubon, I could just put it on the car and go to Audubon.
So there are a lot of great beaches on Audubon.
There are. And there's lots of, especially on the northern shore, there's a lot of islands and stuff. Not a ton of trees along the shore necessarily, but there's plenty of islands and shit. There tends to be a fair amount of, especially when Lake Sakakawea starts going down, like when I was a kid, there tends to get to be a lot of trees along the shoreline because there's already cottonwoods there.
Sure.
And when cottonwood seeds hit water and then that water goes away and the seeds are now on the ground, they grow cottonwood trees.
Like in 10 minutes.
Yeah. They can get awfully big.
Right. I found out one of the cottonwood trees in my neighborhood was there before the turn of the century.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess I don't really know how old they tend.
The last century, not this century.
Oh.
It's more than 20 years old.
Oh, my gosh. Such an old tree.
It was like around the time North Dakota became a state.
Wow.
It was planted there.
I guess I didn't realize cottonwood trees lived that long, generally speaking. I didn't think of them as being a very long-lived tree. Because you think of an oak, and it's like, that oak might be 500 years old.
I looked it up and measured and did the math, and it said if it's a cottonwood tree and it's over 6 foot wide, which this one is, it's this many years old.
Probably.
Yeah.
Unless it had a couple really good years in there.
Yeah. There are also probably a couple of bad ones, but
yeah, this is the reason there were so many trees along the shore of Lake Sakakawea is because all of the Midwest was under pretty bad drought for about a decade of my childhood.
Yep.
God, the lake it boggles my mind how low it actually was. Mm-hmm. It was about a half-mile walk from the campground loop down to the water.
Sure.
And now it is
in the campground.
It's about 10 feet.
Yeah.
Vertically, it's gone like 2 years ago or last year. It was probably at the highest it's been in a long time. That was practically in the campground. It was for a couple of campground spots, actually. It was, if it was a windy day, waves would come up to where the tables normally would sit.
Wow. But they moved them, I assume.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But it's gone up down a little bit this year. So there's, for the first time now in 5 years there is sand and shores instead of just rocks and cliffs. But I'd like to get back there. Hopefully maybe the forecast changes a little bit. It's supposed to, I think the wind is supposed to start going down. I know Friday for here it's at 5 to 15, which is a hell of a lot better than 30 to 40.
Sure. Gusting to 45 today.
Yeah, 20 to 30, gusting up to 45. It's a lot better than that. So that I think I could manage. Because the very first day that I got that thing and went out, it was windy out, and I managed. So I think I could do it. It's much nicer to go out when the wind is not blowing. Why are you laughing?
Because it's weird. I don't know what it is. I think it might be the fact that we've been talking about the weather in North Dakota and lakes in North Dakota. But the longer you've been talking about this particular subject, the more it's gone kind of don't you know.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh. You sort of.
Oh sure. You've been out to Lake Sakakawea this year. Oh gosh.
Oh, don't you know? You betcha.
Sure. You betcha. Yeah.
I'm out there all year long.
That Lake Sakakawea. Oh gosh.
Oh gosh, don't you know? Yeah, I go out there. I catch fish in the summer. I catch fish in the winter.
You know, it was real windy out there, and I was just like, "Woofta, we got to get off the water."
For Christ's sake,
I don't know if I actually really can do a note like. I feel like when I try to do
when I try to do
a stereotypical note accent, it just ends up Canadian.
Sure.
Which is weird because I've grown up here.
Right.
I feel like I should know how to do it, but I don't. Like,
you do it unconsciously occasionally.
Yeah. No, I have some real fucking Nodak moments every once in a while, but
I'm sure I do it even because I'm not even really from here.
Yeah, you tend to do it the least. out of our coworkers, besides the one from Arizona, you do it the least for a person that has lived here as long as you have. Yeah. Oh gosh.
You betcha.
Yeah. If someone says yeah to you, and you can picture there being a J at the beginning of that word, they might be from North Dakota.
Or if someone,
if an American, obviously, if someone does that and they're not from America, they're probably from Germany or Norway or somewhere.
Or I love it when they ask me if I want to beg for my milk.
Do you want to beg? Oh, the flag out there is really blowing. A bag, a flag.
Or a negative response to something in a more emotional way has two syllables in it. I've noticed that as well.
Which is?
Noah.
Yep. I had a friend from high school who I think was the only person I knew who would do this, but it strikes me as a very North Dakota thing. He would say, sorry. Sorry.
That's also very Canadian.
Yeah. Sorry. He would say sorry. My old roommate who was from South Dakota, Sully Sullenberger, right? The pilot who famously crash landed the plane in the Hudson River,
Bay,
saved many. Not Hudson Bay.
Hudson River, yeah.
That would have been far more dramatic if it was Hudson Bay. I don't think they all would have made it.
No.
They wouldn't have all made it back to civilization if they crashed in Hudson. We got to swim to fucking Churchill. Get eaten by all the fucking polar bears. Swim to Churchill, Manitoba, and get eaten by the polar bears. God. But no, the pilot landed the plane.
In Ontario Bay.
Later played by Tom Hanks in a film titled Sully. Well, my roommate talks to me one night and he says, "Hey, you want to go see that movie Sully?"
Sully?
And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Ask if I want to go by myself.
That movie Sully. What? About the pilot? You mean Sully? That's what I said. No, you didn't. You said Sully.
Yeah.
That's just how we do it. Well, it's wrong. It's so there's so many. There's a lot of little linguistic things that I'm fine with. That's where you're from. That's how you talk. No worries. But that is so far away from the way it's pronounced.
Solely.
I'm trying to picture someone calling the big blue monster from Monsters Inc. that.
Yeah, solely.
This is the big monster, Solely. And Mike. Solely and Mike.
So suddenly Mike Wazowski in the middle of the movie, he gets a North Dakota accent.
Oh boy, Billy Crystal with a with a North Dakota accent.
You've heard him do accents before, never North Dakota.
Yeah. I did. Really appreciated, and I might have mentioned this before on here, but I really appreciated. I was watching the College Humor series, Game Changer.
Okay.
Which is they play a different game show every week.
Okay.
And Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is the dungeon master for Dimension 20. We're losing some stereo every once in a while, but he's the dungeon master for Dimension 20, does a whole bunch of different, capable of doing a whole bunch of different voices, that sort of thing. They were playing a game where it was just the host's excuse to have a bunch of College Humor people do impressions.
Okay.
So they would get a card and they would have to do an impression and come up with a scene. Brennan got one that was a North Dakotan.
Really?
And Brennan just went, I moved up here a couple of years ago with my wife. She has family up here, and it's not really where I'd like to be at the moment, just because. But I'd like being around here with her family, and I have a good job, and it's a really good place to raise kids. It's quiet, and the host was just like, Brennan, I don't know if you quite got the spirit of that. I was like, oh, you wanted me to engage in stereotype, did you? You wanted me to be reductive. And the host was just like, that's fair. You got me.
Sure.
And I've never felt more seen in my entire life. So it's like, thank you so much, Brennan, for not doing the voice. Because so many times when I've traveled to other states and people ask me where I'm from, I say, oh, I'm from North Dakota. And they immediately respond with like, oh, so it's like Fargo. Oh, it's okay. Not everybody does that, but it's like people assume that you're going to talk like the people in the movie Fargo, which takes place in fucking Minnesota.
Right. For most of it. I mean, we're in Bismarck for a bit, but then the rest of it's in Minnesota. And
I think that accent too is not most of the state. Like that accent is really Fargo. That accent is the eastern border of North Dakota and Minnesota. Once you get to central and western North Dakota, it starts to mix in with like a western accent, I guess.
It's part western and part Portuguese.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I don't have a good handle on what a western accent is anymore, because like you think a drawl, but when you think drawl, that's southern Texas. People from Montana don't really have an accent to speak of. Like, I don't know if I would ever be able to tell that someone was from Montana. It seems very neutral to me.
You know how you know someone's from Montana? I'm not going to do that.
I don't know where you're going with it, actually. So, I mean, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I don't know.
Right. It's something about a sheep stuck in a fence.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. My nose is really itchy.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Why?
I had some sausage. It was probably greasy. And it did that thing where it makes my nose itchy when I eat some certain greasy things.
What?
I had some, we've talked about this.
We talked about the fact that grease makes your nose itchy?
Yeah, like when I go and eat Wendy's. We've talked about this several times.
I don't know that you've ever said anything about a nose being itchy.
That's the thing. That's the thing that brings up the conversation of like, oh, when I eat Wendy's, my nose gets itchy. That's the thing that brings it up. I know we've talked about this. You just can't remember.
Look, Kyle, the thing is...
Look, Kayla. So many times, people are like, is there a Kayla here? No.
There is not.
You know what? I've never thought of doing that.
What?
I've never thought of just saying no. When people call out for my name and get it wrong, if someone, because... What does the person do if someone says, is there a blank here? And someone loudly goes, no. They're probably going to go, oh, is it? I don't know how I would respond if someone did that.
No, there's not. That's not a name. No one here has that name. That burger is going to get cold.
It's not usually at a restaurant. It's usually at. I don't eat at restaurants, OJ.
Yeah, that's true. I don't either anymore. You know, I used to go get I
don't eat at restaurants that call my name.
I used to go to a Burger King at the mall. I still do occasionally. I'll get to go. I remember one time because my name is Owen. They fucked up the O kind of a little bit, and so I was sitting there and I'm looking at my phone and I hear somebody yell, "Gwen,
Gwen,
Gwen, orders ready for Gwen." And I went, "Oh."
Oh boy. Steven with a PH. Yeah. Mr. Steven.
Steven. I love
Steven. Oh boy.
Yeah.
What have I over the weekend I watched a movie called The Proposition.
Did you?
Which is an Australian Western set in the 1880s. It stars Guy Pearce and a couple other people whom I can't remember.
I like Australian Westerns. There was a movie with Tom Selleck called Quigley Down Under.
Ah, yes. Quigley Down. The I don't know if it's actually the movie that inspired my uncle, but my uncle has a Sharps rifle.
All right.
It's the Quigley gun, as some people call it. I want that thing so bad. It's a really nice gun. But yeah, so it's, here we go. Here's the cast. Guy Pearce, Ray Winstone.
Wow.
Emily Watson.
Not Emma Watson.
Not Emma Watson. Emily Watson, who is the... she's been in a few things. I remember her mostly as having been in Chernobyl recently.
Which I haven't seen yet.
John Hurt.
Oh, really?
Danny Houston. And David Wenham, who was Faramir in The Lord of the Rings.
Faramir.
But it takes place in Australia, in the outback. And it's basically got the plot of the first Red Dead Redemption game, which is you're an outlaw. We've captured you. We want you to go track down your old
posse,
your old companion, and bring them to justice. And it's really interesting because it's also one of the only. I haven't seen a lot of Australian westerns.
You mean Red Dead Redemption or Red Dead Revolver?
The first Red Dead Redemption.
Okay,
because there are two Red Dead Redemptions.
Yes, but there's only one Red Dead Revolver.
Yes, they decided not to make another one of those. But it's good. It's a really good, extremely brutal movie.
Nice.
People really kind of gave it a lot of praise for showing. It's not the focus of the movie, but it's set there, and there's not a lot of movies that really do it justice. The situation that that Aboriginals were in at that time in Australia. It's a part of the setting basically, but they paid very special attention, and there are a bunch of, at least in Australia, fairly famous Aboriginal actors that star in it. And apparently they treated that part of the film with an uncommon respect and attention, which I think is neat, because I've, being an American, never really delved into that part of history.
Sure. I mean, is that part, is it shot out where the river broke?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what that means.
There's a song called Beds Are Burning by, just never mind. Let's just carry on.
Yeah.
It's a song from the early 90s.
All right. Yeah. Sure.
It was very popular by an Australian band. They were talking about politics regarding Aboriginals.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we're done.
We're done. And that's the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Have a good night. Oh, no. That's right. We still have to talk about
Trout Mask Replica.
You know, it's okay. I would have said this.
I shouldn't sound so dejected.
I want to say I bought this album on CD in like 1990, maybe 1995. And I listened to it several times because it was a weird thing to listen to, and I thought it was funny. Because it was weird. I gave it
this
another
was comedy to you.
Yeah, this is listen to what people think is cool. Now I listened to it again here this last week. I'm like, okay, this actually makes more sense than it did before.
I get it now. I get why people thought this was genius.
Yeah.
Of some kind or another.
I can see why some very brilliant, delusional person might think this is genius.
So if you are unaware, Captain Beefheart, a.k.a. Don Van Vliet.
Don Van Vliet.
Vliet. Don Dan Vliet. Don Dan. Yeah, there we go.
Don Dan.
Captain Beefheart. He was a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, an artist,
sculptor, painter.
Yeah. He was an artist.
And he went to high school with Frank Zappa.
Did they go to high school together?
They went to high school together.
That's how they knew each other?
That's how they knew each other.
So, yeah, he had started making music in the 60s and got his magic band together. And they made a few records. And then in 1969, they got together and decided to make this, which is called Trout Mask Replica. And it's produced by Frank Zappa.
Yes, and Frank Zappa's voice appears on it all over the place.
Yes, he does backing vocals. Sometimes he's just in conversation because he's in the sound booth talking back and forth.
Which I decided to put on the record.
With Beefheart.
Yeah.
Why not? And yeah, it was produced by him.
Yeah.
In various places, sometimes in a studio, sometimes in just the house that the band was living in at times. Originally, when they were making this record, apparently Frank Zappa wanted it to be made entirely at their house and have it be like a wholly DIY experience of just like evoking the feeling of, oh, this is just the band. They're practicing right now.
My band did an EP that way in a single wide.
Oh, wow.
We called it the Baylor Trailer. That was the name of the EP.
The acoustics of a single wide must be great.
Well, there was a lot more carpet in there than.
So actually, for a recording,
for like vocals and stuff, it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
But for other instruments like drums, it was fantastic.
I suppose.
I mean, if there's shag on the wall, I mean, there's not going to be too much
wood paneling too. Wood is fairly decent at absorbing sound. Have you ever seen one of those like? I don't remember what it's called. I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically it's a room where it's not soundproof. It's just that there is like
it's a completely dead room.
Yeah, it's a 100% dead room. Where there's no reverberation, and usually it's like thousands and thousands and thousands of differently oriented just wood slats, basically.
I've been in a larger version of that. I mean, without the little version, like in what is now, I don't know if it's still open, Makoche Studio in Bismarck. It used to be called Meyer Studio. They had a room where the wood panels would come out in different positions. Out of the wall, they would just turn a crank and it would come out and it just change the acoustics in there.
Anechoic.
Well, we're gonna go down to Anechoic. There's a bowling tournament down there,
meaning a room without echo.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think it was Ola Englund, YouTuber, guitar player, recorded a little thing in one of those rooms, and he started like setting up his gear, and he had the camera on him. And he was like, "This is fucking bizarre."
It's spooky to be in.
I can hear my heartbeat, not feel his. He's like, I can hear my heartbeat. I don't like this. And then he started playing, and it was just like, this continues to be just like it just because everywhere you go in the normal natural world, there will always be reverberation,
off of
echo, sound bouncing off of hard surfaces and coming back to you.
Even just that tree over there is going to serve as some sort of an echo.
Imagine putting a bat in a room like that. That poor thing, it would go insane.
Have you ever heard a bat scream?
Have you ever heard the sound of a bat losing its mind? Sounds remarkably like a human.
Yeah.
Oh my God, get me out of here. Is that a bat? Oh my God, get me out of here. Where's Harvey Dirt? I have to find Harvey Dirt.
I can't do it if I can't hear anything.
I'm trying to remember what the new guy, an actor I really like.
You talking about Robert Pattinson?
Yeah, Robert Pattinson's Batman was just not like super. I think it's just kind of. It's not super gravelly. It's just,
no, it's
vengeance.
Yeah, I'm vengeance. He's more like that.
Yeah,
and then when he's just like Bruce Wayne,
he's British.
It's just a high falsetto, and it's British. Yes. Hello.
Here's Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello, I'm Bruce Wayne.
Oh, those eccentric billionaires.
I do love, we're, not talking about Trout Mask Replica at the moment, but I do love how in every shot I've seen of that trailer of him as Bruce Wayne, he looks like a guy who stays up all night beating the shit out of criminals. Yeah. He's not like perfectly groomed.
No,
and
he
looks fucking tired and crazy because Batman is crazy.
Right. Because in reality, that's how it would be. I mean,
Batman is mentally ill.
Yeah.
He just so happens to have been trained by ninjas and is a billionaire.
Yeah, there's only one way that Batman would be the Bruce Wayne we've all become accustomed to the charming, handsome playboy with no bags under his eyes. It's if he was a complete psychopath.
Yeah.
He'd have to be.
If he was Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
Also played by an actor who has been Batman.
Right.
American Psycho is a good movie. It's hard to watch. It's I think it's a good movie, but I've watched it a few times. But it's hard to watch. Yeah. Anyway, Trout Mask Replica.
What was it I saw the other day? It was a bundle of hay with a cross painted on it, and it said "My favorite Batman."
Oh, a hay bale.
Christian Bale.
A Christian Bale.
Yeah.
I get it.
Trout Mask Replica.
Trout Mask Replica.
It opens up with Frownland.
Yeah, it opens up with a song called Frownland, which really, I think, sets the stage for the rest of the album. To describe Frownland is to describe insanity. It sounds like every piece of the Magic Band, which includes Beefheart himself, Drumbo on the drums, also known as John French, Antennae Jimmy Siemens, a.k.a. Jeff Cotton, Zoot Horn Rolo, a.k.a. Bill Harkleroad, Rocket Morton, a.k.a. Mark Boston, and the Mascara Snake, a.k.a. Victor Hayden.
The Mascara Snake was bulbous and fast.
Yes. There are a number of other people credited as additional personnel, but it sounds like every piece of the band is playing a different song at the same time.
Well, they are playing a different key and a different time signature.
They're playing in different keys.
All of them.
Different time signatures, different instruments. It's just complete insanity. And then you have Beefheart himself, who might be following one of the beats, or at least would be following one of the beats. But the interesting thing about the way that the vocals on this record were recorded is they recorded all of the instruments in one 6-hour session.
Right.
They rehearsed for this because this is supposedly all intentional.
And if you listen to it closely, it is.
I believe it.
If you just isolate like the guitar, like a lead guitar, it's like, yeah, that person means to do what he's doing.
Yes, but when you put it all together, it's gibberish.
Ridiculous.
It's complete gibberish and nonsense. But it's meant to be that way. And I guess also meant to be this way is the way the vocals were recorded, which is after they recorded all of their instruments in that 6-hour session, Beefheart then spent the next couple of days dubbing over all of the tracks by just listening to the bleed through from the music that was playing in the recording booth. In the control room.
In the control room,
Frank Zappa was listening to the tracks in the control room, and instead of wearing headphones and monitoring the songs and keeping up with the beats that way, he was just listening to what he could hear through the window.
Which is like if your neighbor was playing some shit too loud and you decided to sing a different song along with it.
Yeah. So all of the vocals of this are generally pretty offbeat. Probably not in key with whatever it was he was meant to be whichever piece of it he was meant to be singing along to, if any. This album is just it doesn't incredibly fascinating miasma of confusion.
It doesn't do that all the time, though. And they take
not all the time.
No, they take like certain songs that sound like we were talking about early Chinese Pig. China Pig.
China Pig. China Pig, he's fairly on beat. There are 2 songs on this record, a total of 2, by my reckoning. that come close to making some amount of sense. That's Moonlight on Vermont and Pachuco Cadaver. Those two come close to being like progressive jazz or funk.
Sure.
You can't call this anything.
No, it doesn't.
This has no genre.
Doesn't fit into rock and roll. Really,
This is avant-garde.
Yeah.
If something is so incredibly bewildering, you can't figure out where to place it. It's avant-garde.
Sure.
That's where you put it. Or if it doesn't make your ears bleed, then you call it post-rock. If it's got an electric guitar, but you're like, where does this go? It's post-rock. Sure. But
and this was in the 60s.
Yeah, this was not. I mean, the
Beatles were still together when they did this.
I mean, I think an important piece of the puzzle here, and I wonder if anyone in the Beatles listened to this record, maybe.
I have to think, yeah.
Because, I mean, the Beatles' later music, while not nearly as nonsensical as this, did, famously, of course, take on a more progressive tone.
Like Revolution 9. You've heard Revolution 9, haven't you? It's off the White Album? Came out the year before this.
I'm not very, very up on my Beatles stuff.
I'll have to play you that song afterwards.
But like, yeah, this was, I mean, it was the late 60s. People were doing a lot of psychedelics and music was getting weird. That's how you describe it, basically. People were doing a lot of drugs and music got weird. That's the late 60s. And
then they started to be able to handle their buzz, and that's how the real progressive rock of the 70s happened.
Yeah, people started, okay, we did all this weird shit.
We experimented with weird drugs.
Now let's figure out the stuff that worked. And build on that instead of all the other stuff that didn't work.
Now we have Iron Butterfly.
Now we have, now
King Crimson. Now we have.
I mean, when did Rush become a thing?
Their first album was 1974.
Yeah. And then you got your Rushes. You got your.
Yeah.
I suppose that. That's not a song. I just was trying to jog my memory with a bit of music. When did Pink Floyd become a thing?
67. 1967 is their first album.
But like they were put together a lot more put together than this. Although this is arguably very put together.
Arguably, yeah. And Captain Beefheart was weird.
He was a weird dude.
But he wasn't as weird as the guy who wrote the first Pink Floyd album. I mean,
I suppose.
He ended up in an insane asylum for a long time.
It's true. Beefheart, to my understanding, never ended up in an asylum.
No.
He did end up quitting music eventually.
Yeah, he just did painting.
He started doing visual art instead.
I saw an interview of him when he was at some sort of an exhibit of his. And the clip that I saw that they were asking him, do you ever think about music anymore? How is that related to your painting art? Does it come from the same place? And I think the response was something like, yeah.
Well, so Beefheart was in his mid-20s when he made this.
Yeah.
He already sounded like a 50-year-old man. His voice on this is so like croaky.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of a toad in some ways. Very gravelly. And that's I think the best adjectives, gravelly and toad-like. Some of his vocals on here. He sounds on this like he has the voice you would think of in your head when you see a picture of him in his 60s.
Sure.
You look at a picture of Captain Beefheart when he was much later in life, and you think, oh, this guy sounds like this. And that's what he sounded like when he was 25.
Yeah, and there was a reviewer that said that Beefheart's voice makes Tom Waits sound like Julie Andrews.
I almost did a spit take. I had to open my mouth real wide so I didn't spit it out. Yeah. No, that's I think that works. And for the record, I don't think his voice is bad necessarily. It's not unlistenable.
No, he's obviously singing in some sort of key.
Yeah, no, like he can hold a tune. I think it's just the everything else that's going on around it is so befuddling. The lyrics are incredibly befuddling. It's to the point where I don't know if the lyrics are just nonsense or if they're draped in so many layers of metaphor that I would never be able to discern them for myself.
Right.
For myself, this album gave me dissociative identity disorder.
He's beside himself over this album.
My other identities are also confused by this album. But God, it's so bizarre. I was listening to this on Saturday night, I think, and I just sent you a text that said, "What are time signatures anymore?"
And I knew exactly what he meant.
I'm gonna read some of the titles out. Some of the bizarre titles out. Hair Pie Bake 1.
That's the one where they record the bush at the end.
Yeah, about the last half of it is just
it's the last few seconds.
It's more than a few seconds.
Like 25, 30 seconds.
I think it's like a minute and a half.
And by the way, I didn't get that's possibly a double entendre until
Hair Pie?
like recently, and recording the bush.
Oh, you're doing a bush recording.
Because it's Hair Pie.
Yeah. Okay.
Bush.
At any rate, there was someone on the crew.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who. Was presumably outside. On the sidewalk, perhaps,
with the microphone stuck into a bush, and you heard a conversation in the background
between him and presumably a stranger.
Yeah, it was a couple.
Walking by, wondering what the fuck this guy was doing. Recording this bush
music.
Bush music. This is for a song called Neon Meat Dream of an Octofish. No, wait. It's Hair Pie Bake 1. As if these people walking by would have any idea what that means. Another song called Bill's Corpse. Then there's the Sweet Sweet Bulbs. Of course, as I said, Neon Meat Dream of an Octofish. Meat there, by the way, is spelled
with an E.
With an E at the end. MEATE for whatever reason. My Human Gets Me Blues. Hair Pie Bake 2. When Big Jones Sets Up.
I love that song.
Ant-Man B. That's interesting.
It's about race.
It's in. See, to me, that is an alternate title for the second Ant-Man film.
Ant-Man B?
Ant-Man and the Bee. We couldn't get the Wasp, so we have the Bee.
The Bee.
Instead of, oh no, I can't remember her name. The actress, Kate from Lost.
Right.
Instead of Kate from Lost, we got the Australian girl, and she's the Bee.
Yeah, or B. Arthur. That'd be great.
We got B. Arthur.
Who'd been dead already for a few
Paul
years.
Rudd and B. Arthur.
Yeah, and what would happen if her character broke wind?
I don't know.
Be a beefheart.
Help me.
You're welcome.
Orange Claw Hammer. She's too much for my mirror. She's too much for anyone's mirror.
Yeah.
Hobo Chang Ba. The thing that I think is perhaps one of the songs that is most emblematic of this album. It's not a song. The Blimp.
The Blimp. Yeah. Well,
which is
it's just a recording off the phone.
Beefheart called before they began recording.
Yeah.
Don got on the phone. He'd just come up with the greatest idea ever. He wrote down the lyrics for it. He came up with this idea. It was going to be the thing that puts the Magic Band on the map. So he calls Frank Zappa, who knows what time of the day. Frank Zappa hits record because this is going to be genius. And it's just how long is it?
It's not really long.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes
Yeah.
of Captain Beefheart yelling about a blimp
Over the phone. In very weird, high-pitched voice.
They put some effects on it probably,
Maybe.
eventually. Or he could just do that. He's a weird guy. He probably has some weird skills. But yeah, he just called up Frank Zappa and was like, I got this idea. Okay, you ready for it? And it's just this weird like slam poem about a blimp.
The blimp.
That's crashing? I don't remember. This album is a fever dream. Then there's Old Fart at Play.
I love that song too.
And Veterans Day Poppy. I don't remember. This album, by the way, is 78 minutes long. It's almost 79 minutes long.
Right.
I don't remember what track the title is from. It's one of the later ones. It's on side 4 at the very least.
The title is from. It's one that is it's Mousetrap Replica. It's
Mousetrap Replica is the blimp.
Yeah, it's in that song somewhere.
Is it?
He says something about. Oh no, it's not. It's in the second to last song. It's in
Old Fart at Play.
Old Fart at Play. Yeah, because the old fart eventually becomes the face of a trout.
Oh yeah, look.
Yeah.
Look. I'm not going to remember any of this shit. I don't want it to sound like I'm getting too down on this. I think this is fascinating. And for what it's worth, I enjoyed my time with it. But this is also not something that I'm going to listen to for pleasure
ever again.
I don't know about ever again.
Oh,
this is one of those things that I think is going to haunt me for the rest of my life, and I'm going to have to come back to it at different. If next time I get to a point where I'm like, I am in a new stage of my life,
right?
When one of my friends says, well, it looks like looks like the end of a chapter of your life, Cale Borner. Like in the Dewey Cox story.
Right.
If someone turns to me and says that, then I'm going to have to sit down with this album again.
Sure.
And see what I think at that point.
I'm picturing, right? I'm picturing you singing
if I get married, I'm going to have to listen to this.
Oh, I was thinking you were going to go and drag, but I mean... Maybe.
That's not what I meant.
Maybe. You never know.
I don't know where my life is going to take me, but that's not what I meant by that.
We're having a big show here this weekend, by the way. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if I get married, I'm going to have to listen to it.
Sure.
If I have a child, going to have to give it a listen.
Actually, if you have the song, in your wedding march should be the song Pena.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's my favorite song on this.
Screw having like the wedding march be something beautiful and something that I actually enjoy, like Happy Pola by Sigur Rós or something like that. No, I'm gonna have my first dance, like that top YouTube comment. I'm gonna have the first dance at my wedding be Frownland. I don't remember.
Don't do the blimp. That'd be
that would set things off on the wrong foot.
Right.
But I don't remember Pena.
You don't remember? That's the one that begins with.
Are you sure it's Pena and not just Pena? Or Pena?
I would say Pena. They're from Southern California.
There's no Enye on the end though.
Man.
If they meant it to be Pena, they could put an Enye there.
Sure.
It's not Michael Pena.
Maybe.
Hollywood actor.
He wasn't born yet, but...
Didn't something happen with him? Did he turn out to be a piece of shit or something?
I think, there was some sort of a Me Too thing going on there.
Possibly. I don't remember.
But yeah, that's the one that starts out with Fast and Bulbous.
Oh, Fast and Bulbous. Fast and Bulbous.
The mascara snake was fast and bulbous with a 10-tear drop.
Oh, yeah. And that's when... They do like distortion on the 10-tear drop thing at certain points when it repeats, so it sounds really weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of screaming in the black background.
Yeah, it's There's so much going on here. We haven't. I mean, this album defies any sort of criteria we could place upon it as far as
does it slap,
slapping or not slapping. That doesn't apply here. As far as the score goes, at least for the professional ratings section on Wikipedia, 100%. I'm not shitting you. I'm not like all music, Encyclopedia of Popular Music, Pitchfork, Q, Rolling Stone Album Guide, all 100%. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Rolling Stone Magazine, not Rolling Stone Album Guide. Rolling Stone Magazine just says favorable. So that maybe that's the outlier that brings it down. Out of all the other ones, reputable sites and publications, 100%. And like you said, there are people whose part of their life's work revolves around an understanding of this record.
Right.
Here's what John Peel had to say.
Okay.
BBC disc jockey John Peel, famous.
The Peel sessions.
Yeah, famous for giving a lot of people their start and a lot of publicity. He said, quote, "If there has been anything in the history of popular music which could be described as a work of art in a way that people who are involved in other areas of art would understand, then Trout Mask Replica is probably that work." This is art music for modern artists.
Yes.
This is the music equivalent of modern art, but like the not the boring, stupid modern art. Because there's boring, stupid modern art. This is the type of modern art where you walk into a room and there is a bunch of weird shit hanging from the ceiling and a projector where a bunch of clowns are sacrificing a goat.
Right, and a woman on a stage begging you to throw trash at her.
I went to an art museum in Denver, and that was one of the rooms. I think it was supposed to be saying something about Palestine, because I think the clowns were Jewish, because they were sacrificing a goat. That was the way they used to do. But
I think those clowns are Jewish.
Well, and it was all like everything seemed to be set in Jerusalem. This was I was 14.
Okay.
I think I was younger than that, actually. Maybe I was 12. I don't remember. It was weird for me to see at that age. It was weird for me to be in an art museum.
Sure.
I was not at the age where I got a lot out of an art museum.
By the way,
I really enjoyed the Natural History Museum we went to. The art museum I went to, I was just like, what is this?
You've been to the State Museum, right?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah, I love that. Like recently?
Yeah. After the remodels and stuff, I've been there. Yeah. It's a nice museum.
It's great, yeah. I mean, there's lots of different themes.
They added more fossils, I think, when they did the renovation, which small me would have appreciated the most. I still think paleontology is neat. I'm just not nearly as obsessed with it as when I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist. And then as I got older, I realized I'm not smart. So I decided to not do that. And instead I'm here. But anyway, this album is generally considered to be the band's and the artist's magnum opus. It's their greatest work. Nothing will ever top it. Beefheart died in 2016, I think. And he never returned to music after, I think, sometime in the 80s.
Yeah, like 82 or something like that
is when he retired from music, because things did not go super well for Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band for quite some time. They never broke through. This
is the sort of thing that doesn't have a storied longevity. I mean, this is the sort of thing where you make it and that's great. Now I'm going to go be a pizza cook.
I mean, it has had a storied longevity. It just wasn't. It was not both interesting enough and also accessible enough to propel anyone involved from the creative side to a further career. Obviously, Frank Zappa would go on to be more successful than Beefheart would ever be. This beer is full. Because I was not done with one beer, and then I opened another beer because I thought I was done with the beer, but I wasn't. But yeah, I mean, Frank Zappa would go on to be a huge and very well-known artist.
Sure. An orchestra conductor.
Yeah. But Beefheart himself would never quite break through to the same level of success, which I think is why he just decided to do visual arts, and apparently was quite successful at that.
He sold the shit out of those.
Apparently his paintings sold quite well.
Yeah, and you look at his paintings and you go, Captain Beefheart.
Yeah, Beefheart did that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Sure.
Because it's almost like the one thing I saw the video that you were watching, it was kind of splatter art sort of.
Kind of those,
nonsense collage.
Right.
I don't know. Like everything else he's done, I don't know what it means, but I should listen to like Safe as Milk, because that's they're more accessible, well known but more accessible record that maybe I could get a little bit more enjoyment out of. I have not really listened to like free jazz. Jazz has never really appealed to me all that much. I've listened
about the notes they don't play.
Yeah. I've listened to like I love the Dillinger Escape Plan, and part of what makes them so unique is the fact that it's basically jazz drums, but instead of they don't have a brass section.
Right.
It's just the guitars, and instead of leaving them clean, they put a bunch of distortion on them.
So it's like, this is
and
metal.
They're screamed vocals.
Right.
So it becomes metal.
Right.
Even though it's basically the sort of drumming you would hear in very fast, frenetic jazz. Which,
it's Gene Krupa, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
with a double bass pedal. I should listen to a little bit more of that area. I guess I haven't mentioned your favorite song you said was Pena.
I think so.
Pena.
I think this is the one I enjoy. It's funny. I enjoyed multiple songs on this, but that's the one that for some reason stuck in my head the most.
I don't know
that you enjoyed a song on this.
No, I think I would need to listen to it again, I think, to really say one that I truly enjoy. I appreciate all of this. I'm not sure if I could pick a favorite, simply because it all just bleeds together into one
long piece,
big, long, confusing song.
So what song would you like to listen to again? I think that's your point.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I like the title of Neon Meat Dream of an Octofish. I just think that's funny. It occurs to me, it's like people listen to what is it? The Mollusk by Ween, and they're like, this is so weird. It's like, well, this also has to do with a sea creature, and it's far, far weirder. But I don't know. I probably couldn't choose anything. I could pick the one that I think makes the most sense to me, which is Moonlight on Vermont. It's also the only song on here that has its own Wikipedia page.
Really?
Yeah. None of the other songs have their own Wikipedia page.
Why does that one get one?
Let's see. I don't know. It just says it's one of the most famous from Trout Mask Replica, probably because it's the one that makes the most amount of sense. It was also released on the live album I'm Gonna Do What I Want to Do, Live at My Father's Place, 1978. Pitchfork thought that the band on that version folds the cuttingly arrhythmic honks and squawks into traditional blues arcs that are only apparent after the riff is over. I don't know what that means, but I think it's because it is probably the closest thing to an accessible track on the record is probably why it's notable. So I'll cop out and
like the popular one.
Sure. This is one of the reasons why I will have to re-listen to it at some point.
Sure.
Just it's gonna have to be a bit. I think.
Right. When
Maybe.
you've decided to
know.
become a serial killer after you've taken your first
I feel
life.
like this album is like the fucking Necronomicon of weird music, right? In the sense that you shouldn't read the Necronomicon. You shouldn't go into the restricted section of the library at Arkham University or whatever.
It's just a novel. I mean, the Necronomicon.
It's like Lovecraft shit.
Sure.
It's like it's forbidden knowledge that you shouldn't have. You shouldn't look, but you can't help.
Yeah.
It's the more I talk about this and I'm like, I don't think I can go back to listen to it. There's something in the back of my head going, but you gotta listen to it. You gotta figure it out. You have to listen to it until it makes sense to you.
What does it mean?
My brain is just clawing and scratching for meaning in any of this. And to me, that suggests that it's there because
sure.
And many people would agree that it is there. I just haven't found it. And that's a personal journey that I'm going to have to go on.
I still feel like that there's a slight Emperor's New Clothes aspect to this. Like
no one wants to admit that it's silly and weird.
Yeah, no one this is just artistic genius.
No one wants to be the guy that tells all of these professional music reviewers, hey, this is just kind of nonsense. And then they're all like, no, it's super intelligent and smart.
Especially because now they've said something and you have to, attach that particular review with them.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I don't know. This is just, I can't even give this. Maz Kanata.
Yeah.
She's over there. She's got nothing for this.
You're actually right about that. I feel like that would be awarding a medal to a runner who's the only one in the race. I mean, they're
the only person there. They're not on a track.
They're not on a track.
They're not even on a sidewalk.
No,
they're in the middle of a field.
There was no track meet today.
They're in the. It's one person trying to run against the current of a river. And you're just watching them going, why?
Yeah. I don't understand.
I should stop them, but I can't. This is just, I gotta watch this and see what happens. So you can't award a medal to there's nothing.
No.
Nothing would work. So after that, next week, I want to listen to something that is very palatable.
Ah, okay.
And,
we're going to switch gears entirely.
Very, very easy on the ears.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
Are you going to pull the rug out from under me just in moments?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm surprise, Obscura. Even though it's a metal album.
Yeah.
No. Next week we're gonna take it easy. We're going to listen to some nice, soothing, beautiful post-rock. We're going to listen to the newest Caspian album. It's called On Circles. It came out in the spring sometime, I think. It's a beautiful, pretty album.
Caspian makes beautiful music.
They're a post-rock band that I really like and have liked for a while now. So I think next week we're gonna talk about On Circles by Caspian.
There is an album that comes out this month that is definitely a metal album that I wish we could talk about, but I just want
the Heathen album.
Yeah, the new Heathen album.
Well, October is just around the corner.
Yeah, Rocktober. He's nodding right now. For the record.
I was taking some time swallowing my beer.
All right, you were tasting it.
Just really, really savoring these Leinenkugel Oktoberfests. Really giving it some thought.
Sure.
So between now and next week, why don't you go and check out our social media pages? You, the listener, not you. OJ.
Not me. No, I don't check that shit out.
Yeah. Facebook, Twitter, Bronze Metalist, podcast. I think there might be a podcast and on the title of those pages. Anyway, we're also on Libsyn and on iTunes and not iTunes.
Apple Music.
Apple Music.
Apple Music or Apple Podcasts.
Tim has our shit.
Yeah.
Tim's got our shit.
Tim Horton has our shit.
Tim Horton has
Tim
our
Apple.
shit. Tim Apple.
Yes.
He's got our stuff. We're also on Libsyn and the mobile version of that called the Podcast Source. You can get it probably on the App Store for iOS, but also on Google Play for your Android. Go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Yay! The blimp! The blimp!
No. No, my child. There is no blimp. What? It's the Hindenburg. And
Yeah.
It's on fire. I don't know.
I don't know. The blimp!
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Captain Beefheart.
I used to be OJ. Congratulations.